First of all, you have to understand 2% percentile of your profit given back to the society is not, that's not just CSR.
Are they really looking for the social impact? Do you think so?
You discharge toxic chemicals into the river without treatment. For all legal issues, I can't tell you the names and the rivers.
So everyone is saying कि AI से job चली जाएगी and all that.
I want to tell this through your podcast now, that the most safest place to put their bet is CSR. Why? Because
He's Dr. Soumitro Chakraborty, and whether you realize it or not, his decisions are shaping your future. From starting his journey as an aviator to becoming the founder and CEO of Fiinovation, one of India's leading CSR and impact advisory organizations, his story is anything but ordinary. For over 17 years, he has been working at the intersection of corporations, communities, and social change, quietly influencing lives across the country. In today's episode, we talk about that journey, the evolution of CSR in India, the real challenges behind impact work, and what the future holds. This is DTalk with Dr. Soumitro Chakraborty.
So sir, it's really good to have you here, and I really want to know, I was just searching about you and wanted to know that why this series, because initially you were very active on TV's channel, a lot of conferences. I have seen your social sector, you're talking about a lot of social development and all that. I found that there was some gap in between, and then you come up with this DTalk and all that, sir. How about this, and what came in your mind, when you started?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Akash, for having me here today. Where it all started is the differentiating factor between sound, noise, and signals.
Yeah.
So let me put it a bit this way. So when you start an organization, what normally happens is people need to see you, that you exist. People need to feel you, that you exist. People need to see your body of work, what you have done. So initially, because we were a very small team, so we decided that I'll take the mantle and sort of reach out with the brand's placement. Since we did not want to start operating as a civil society organization, but as a sort of a private limited company, so it was my responsibility to take the brand up. We had a great team, although much smaller in range, but at that time it was to bring the brand in front. You are right exactly that in the mid journey, I think ideally post COVID, intentionally we went a bit silent. We were focused more on writings. We focused more on development of new modules, reports and all. And somewhere down the line, I should now be held responsible that I did not give impetus to an upcoming trend, an upcoming tech space where you will be heard in the non-conventional mediums, in the non-conventional sources. So for example, today, Akash and Soumitro is sitting in a podcast and discussing a lot of issues. I'm sure we're going to discuss and you're going to grill me out in a lot of issues. But in 2012 or 13, this was as good as an imagination at that point of time.
True.
Right. And maybe 10 years down the line, what we are doing today is completely different.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe people would talk about podcasts. Akash would be landing up with Soumitro and saying, we did a podcast that time and now what has happened to the podcast?
Yeah.
So I would say the transition between floppies to CDs to USBs to fly dash drives, that is how we evolved. We also were late in sort of understanding that there's a trend which is upcoming, because we were more focused on the ground and to create impact. So we always thought this was an auxiliary side. If your body of work is good enough, it will speak for itself, which is true in a way. But of late, we have also understood that people need to hear your voice. People need to know what this organization stands for. People need to know who are the members in the team. People need to know how do you differentiate between noise and a signal. So I think to remove that part from noise to the signal is what I must give credit to my media team, that they have been at it for the last few months. The podcast is just one medium. There are various other things that we're doing in order to come on the social media now, especially on video formats. Because if we keep sticking to the written formats of 2010, 11, 12 in the initial stages of the company, I would be completely irrelevant today, because the generation today, I believe, is far more faster, far more deeper, provided we give enough respect to them. And they're far more impact oriented, but they're also very visual oriented. So they also want to know exactly, they want to listen to you while seeing you. Audiobooks are good,
Yeah.
but say, for example, I'll take an example. I love a book called Atomic Habits, right? It's a brilliant book, right? It works on the principle of compounding efficiency of 1% a day, stacking of habits, and ABC. And James Clear has been great at it. I can give you a sort of a synopsis of that book. But when James Clear speaks about that book, and I've heard him live, I've heard him in roundtables, right in front of me, the conviction with which he speaks actually translates beyond what is written in the book.
True.
So I think to cover that gap, we sort of decided, okay, it's time. When we have to now start a series where we don't become mediators, but we become translators.
Okay.
And translation of between the person sitting on the ground, biting the dust, working on the ground, to the person sitting in a multinational corporation boardroom and taking the call of how much to be invested in that project. How does he take that call? How many of them would actually travel on the ground? So we thought, okay, we would become the translators, would be able to translate that. And maybe the communication between these two stakeholders is relatively easier. And frankly speaking, Akash, that is the reason why we exist today in this ecosystem. So this is just a story to take it forward.
So basically, I just want to know who should watch this podcast according to you.
According to me, first of all, you and I.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you and I should watch the podcast and work it out. How can we make it better next time? But if you look at the stakeholders whom it should benefit, ideally, because this is the first episode, who it should benefit, I think are three important stakeholders. One is the donor side, the corporations, who find it very easy to analyze reports, but find it a bit difficult to analyze impact. The difference between this, the reports that have been put and the impact that they create, I think they should know the impact that they create and how positive impact impacts the society much more than just writing a check. So the one group of stakeholders is the donors. The second group is the people who are working on the ground. As I told you, for the people who are biting the dust, working in the social space, day in, day out, they are working for the community. They need to look at what is the expectation of the people sitting in the boardroom and what kind of impact are they looking for, so that they in the future can align their CSOs in alignment with the corporations. And third and the most important thing is a citizen. I've often felt before joining this industry, in my earlier avatar, and I still interact with a lot of people. Hardly any of my friends is from the CSR space. So I keep talking to a lot of people. And whenever I talk of CSR, it either is an auxiliary item in their information vanity van, or it is sort of I would say, it's a topic which can be kept as an annexure and not as a part of a main document. So I think they have to now listen. The common citizen has to now listen to it and understand that with a corpus as big as 40,000 crores nearly now, you can't ignore this as a contributing machine, as a contributing engine to the entire GDP and social growth. So if you are not interested in it, if you're not interested in social growth, see, ideally we are a social welfare state, right?
Okay.
We are a welfare state. We are not a capitalist state. I do give respect to capitalism. I think socio-capitalism is something that we should look for. Money which generates impact. And let us understand with an example. So I'm working on the ground and I have a project to implement. I'm a part I see a problem in my local village and I want to make a change. What are the ways I can do it? I can go to the Gram Panchayat. I can go to the district collector. I can go to the CEO Panchayat. I can go to the block development officer. Where on earth do you think a person sitting in a remote village in Maharashtra, struggling with farmer suicides, with private money lenders, creating havoc, where do you think he would know about CSR? And how do you think MNCs or corporations working in boardrooms would know that a person exists who needs help? Maybe just a simple structure of pond rejuvenation makes a difference to his irrigational facility, and he can grow some crop and come out of the farm debt trap.
Yeah.
So I think if we are able to, I'd be highly successful, and we as a team would be highly successful if we are able to take the concept of CSR to that level, or maybe even if 50% of the desired stakeholders are aware of CSR, I think this would be an immense help. Because there's so much of noise. You just open your feeds in your phone and you start scrolling.
Yeah.
How much of the noise means, for example, what is happening in Tunisia and what are the food habits of the people in Tunisia? Some of us may know it better because it comes in the reels.
Yeah.
But do we really know how many farmers are committing suicide right now in India as you and I have do this podcast here in this air-conditioned environment? Do we really know how many girls are getting sexually abused that are reported and not reported every single day? So these are realities that, and I don't want to sound traumatic, means I've been only giving bad examples till now. So you might feel CSR is about trauma handling. No, we are not running a trauma center. It is about the solution side of it. So these problems can have a private sector help. And it doesn't require holding the flag and running on the streets. It is about addressing a core issue. And I think if we are able to bring these stakeholders into one platform through this podcast, and we will attempt in our future series to make it vernacular also, in different vernaculars. And if they are able to even gain 30% insight, I think we all would have achieved success in that way.
You have spoke about a lot of things, But don't you think that companies are like more into, like, they are doing formalities only, like 2% rule, and they are just obeying that kind of a paperwork? And are they really looking for the social impact? Do you think so?
Okay, so let me give you with two different perspectives of it.
Yeah.
So the first one is that not every company is doing that, right? So let me give you, in 2008-9 when we started, we basically just imagine getting into an industry where an industry does not exist at all. There was no industry for CSR consulting or CSR
So
advisory.
it was which year?
It was 2008 we started working, and 2009 we got registered.
So you're talking about Fiinovation.
Yeah, our company.
Yeah.
Fiinovation. So when we started the company,
Okay.
and I'll come to your question because you'll understand the directive principles of it. So when we started a company, we didn't have a space. There was no industry for CSR consulting. Means all the big four consulting companies did not have a CSR advisory space, right? So when we
But the concept was there.
Concept has been for ages together. Concept has been for ages
So
together.
CSR term was there.
Yeah. The terminology of corporate social responsibility existed pre-independence.
Okay.
Right, and has been carried forward through independence, through the last so many years, by various foundations and organizations. And let me tell you that I think before the law came, we had a good substantial 15 to 16, I think about 12 to 15,000 crores of annual investment in CSR, even before the law existed in 2013. Okay, so there was substantial amount of it. But so when we started the organization, we wanted to enter into an industry where the industry did not exist. Right. So, so we were kind of Teslas of our sector.
Kind of a pioneer.
A kind of pioneer. Yeah.
We can
At that time, no one existed.
Yeah.
And specifically for this. So a lot of firms used to do M&A, tax audits and all of these. But specific to CSR, there was no agency at that point of time at this level. So we thought of disrupting the industry, but creating substantial positive change. So we entered there. So what happened, I'll tell you interestingly. because the dots always get attached. When we started, initially 1 year, we had a lot of problems, as any startup would have. Financial problems, infrastructure issues. We started with a very small room, 4 people. We had to take care of the salaries. I was lucky enough to have a few young individuals with me who could afford few
it was
laptops.
2009.
2009, yeah.
Okay.
And just 4 of us starting this organization, and we had few laptops, few desktops. We started working. Paying rent was very difficult at that point of time, because we wanted to generate capital from the business itself.
Yeah.
But we also saw an opportunity there, because we were convinced about the sector we were going to work in. So money did not get us. Valuation prospect did not get us. What got us is the intent.
Okay.
So in a way, it was easy for us, because every time we would go down, our intent would help us bounce back, right? And it was sort of a mental return on investment. I think on M, using the word mental. Now what happened is when we started going into rooms, nobody expected us. Suppose, for example, you're coming from an engineering consulting company. You go into a room for engineering consulting. People would expect you to come. People would know what you would talk. And here you get a card from a company which is CSR consulting, and they would like, why? I mean, why do we need to talk? So our first door knock was always a sense of query. Why? And the moment we started talking to people, we realized that people are not averse to the concept of CSR, but in the absence of a structure, they have different pathways to address it. The easiest pathway would be to just write a check and give it to some organization. Nobody was focused greatly on impact. Not every company was doing it. What 2013 did for us is it gave us 4 years of preparation.
Oh, yeah.
So by the time the law came, we were actually prepared, because we were working in an industry where the industry did not exist. And then as soon as the mandate came in, the industry came. Because now companies were under compliance obligations. Then they had to. So you had the big fours and all the top consulting.
You must be having a lot of calls from a lot of companies and all that.
Yeah, we initially had a lot of it. We had people queued up with us trying to do a lot of work. People who would be a bit apprehensive about joining us as a team, because they would not be sure. We are not built up to work in like CSR consulting firms. So we had a lot of people from different backgrounds. We had medical doctors, we had engineers. Some of them could not find a suitable job outside. Some of them got intrigued by the concept of it. Some of them were convinced this is the way forward. But we got together and we scaled up. And I think in 2013 we scaled up 2x in terms of human resource. And I think in 2015 we went 3x, because the requirement was so much. So in a way, when we entered the industry, the CSR space did not exist. But what 2013-14 did is it told us that hindsight, what we did was right. And it facilitated our process. Yes, it increased the competition, because now it was an industry.
Okay.
And you had competitors.
So they've lots of new companies also?
Lots of new, very small companies, plus the top 4 formed specialized departments.
Okay.
Which again became because they had done great work in their tax audits or M&As and acquisitions and everything. So they had a reputation. So it was relatively easier for them. But we were a growing brand. And also what made the journey interesting is we are still now bootstrapped. We don't owe a single rupee of debt to any institution. We are the equity is fully with us. We have not gone the Shark Tank way.
Okay.
And we have not looked at investment. I don't deny the requirement of an investment later.
Okay.
But as of now, till date, we have maintained our bootstrapped structure of existence, because that has helped us to evolve without obligations. So we have a lot of in-house discussion before we evolve a new process, a new mechanism. I have a feeling when you go in for investments, you have a blockage in that. So so that's where I think as a CSR consulting advisory firm. I think we are with freedom, but the journey ahead is huge. So let's see how we cover it. Yeah.
And I want to know regarding Fiinovation, how you set up the culture over here, because when I come over here, the culture is so warm. I feel so like it's a homely kind of environment for me. So how you set up all of this? Is it like hiring process? You have something in your
So I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Let me start with. So as a leader, it's very important for you to know that I'm today going to offend a few people in this podcast.
Yeah.
But we don't have a culture book here.
Okay.
We don't sell Fiinovation's culture book here, right? Most of our senior team members, nearly most, are all at least 10 to 12 years working with us, right? A lot of members in the organization have joined this as their first job and continue to work with us, right? I think as a leader, it is very important to understand what kind of culture you want in an organization. So over a period of time, I was very clear about one thing, that I will set the floor of the ethics and the ceiling of the standard. What happens in between?
I just want to understand that actually.
Okay,
What is that actually?
So what I want to say is, I wanted to basically fix up that as ethics, the gap in between ethics and standards has to be filled up by the team themselves.
Okay.
How do you conduct yourself? How do you conduct with others? How do you conduct with your clients? What kind of attitude sets you accept? What do you tell that is not acceptable? So I'll give you a small example. Historically, we have been always a woman-heavy organization, an organization which has always taken pride of having 65% of women in its workforce, if not more. And I must say that they have played a very crucial role in the productivity of the organization, of where we are. We wouldn't have been here if it was not for them. And at that point of time, we realized that number one point in this organization is you do not take the respect and the modesty of not only the woman, but everyone in the organization not for granted. So I'll tell you a very interesting thing. In our organization, nobody uses a slang. Now, let me tell you very frankly, nowhere is it written you can't use a slang.
Okay.
Nowhere in the HR handbook is it written that you are not allowed to use this word or that word. There is a line written that you will behave in the most desired manner. But what happens is, when the senior leadership of the organization, especially the founding team, when they don't practice a certain set of bad habits, it sort of culminates in the organization. Because most of the people who we hire or who work with us are not bad. But there are times when, excitement gets better of you and you tend to sort of cross the line. There have been instances a couple of times, but suitable actions have been taken and it set a benchmark. But in an 18-year history, a couple of incidents is not much to quote.
Yeah.
But overall, if you look at it, then it is very important. It was very important for me to understand that I should not be the sole person to set the culture. Because if I'm doing that, I would have succeeded in setting up a culture, but I would have failed as a leader. So for me, my idea was that I wanted to be a lighthouse leader. I did not want to be a helicopter leader. So my lighthouse leadership is give directions to people, tell them what is expected out of them, give them ownership, give them a conducive environment for a fair practice of work. And I think they've done a great job. So the overall culture in this organization is warm and I'm damn proud about it. And believe you me, Akash, I have not written a single article or a journal or a blog on company's culture till now. Now that you've spoken about it, I think I should write about it, because if you have asked it, it must be important.
Yeah.
But till now, I don't think we have written anything about it. just because we feel we belong here, right? So if you ask me today, if I don't turn up to the office, the entire organization is going to run very well, because 90% of my organization is running by itself. Sometimes I feel they might get up one fine day and tell, what the hell do you come to the office every day? But I hope that day doesn't come. But they're running all by themselves. And my job is today to do only three things: spot the right talent,
Okay.
recognize and incentivize the talent. Third, to ensure that I give them a conducive environment, good enough for them to focus on what they have to. And I think if you, as a leader, as a CEO, if you're able to do that for your organization, you set up very clearly a company culture to grow with very clear demarcation of the boundaries. That is very important. Means as a leader of the organization or as a top management, if you set the boundaries very clearly, then I think it's only a matter of time before everybody who comes in the system starts respecting it and starts feeling a part of it. And believe me, if you are able to create that line, and if you're able to create that sort of an environment, people will actually just own up. You don't need to give directives and write books and publish papers. It's good for SEO or good for propagation, you know, that we have the company culture and all that stuff. But I think here it's very simple. We treat each other with respect, with dignity, and I think we treat each other warmly. So, and I'll tell you frankly, so during COVID, you won't believe this, but when the whole world was under lockdown, if I'm not mistaken, I can't get the actual data, but 30 to 35% of our people were on the ground helping people. And we were carrying out projects in various states of India, from northeast to the extreme northeast to south. We were carrying out projects widely published in the media. You can go through, thankfully. And we were one of the few organizations who had feet on the ground. If somebody comes and tells me today that your team was on the ground because they were getting salaries, it would be a cruel joke on the intent of those individuals. Because salary and remuneration and designation cannot be a purpose of life. And all of these were young people. They were on the ground. They were implementing projects. People were scared to death during COVID, and they were inside their homes. And these are the people who went out and said, no, sir, we'll be on the ground because the people need us now. So our private organization is set on ethos like that. I don't need to tell people about the culture. I just have to show that these are the examples. And others would be like, today, after the podcast, you would like, I said, this also happened. When people hear about this from me, and they're like, okay, if this happens in an organization, we have not heard of it in that way. And so you build up a culture. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of consistency. It takes a lot of support. You got to understand. Sometimes they will take undue leaves, but these are the same These are the same people who will work for you during the COVID times. So it's sort of a sports team. I treat it like a sports team. And I'm greatly influenced by some of the biggest coaches of the world who treat their teams in a very different manner. So running a corporate organization is much like running a sports team, because everybody is not going to be at their peak all the time. The moment you start accepting this, you'll realize that it's a good culture to have, where you start accepting people with their weaknesses, with their vulnerabilities, and you don't disrespect because of that, and you pay respect to what their strengths are. You will see how an organization's culture works. And you don't need to write a book. I've never read a book on organization culture. I've read a lot of autobiographies. I've read a lot of books. That's my greatest hobby today, reading about 25 pages a day. But
we can sense from this whole of this.
Yeah, I mean, these are only a few of them. We have a full-fledged library inside also. So I think, but my clear understanding is treat people with dignity. It's not that people have not left us and gone and worked for other organizations. And even today when they meet with so much of warmth, because at the end of the day, this is all a setup. This is an institution, but we exist as individuals. If you are able to respect individuals in an organization, the institution is by itself what it is. I think the best example I can give is in Discovery of India,
Okay.
Pandit Nehru actually speaks about it very nicely. He at one point
Okay, the book,
says,
yeah.
how do you define Bharat Mata? We all say Bharat Mata ki jai.
Yeah.
I proudly say Bharat Mata ki jai. What is Bharat Mata? Can anyone define? Is she a goddess? No. Is it the geography? No. Is it the demography? Is it the people? No. It is about the people in that geography and how do they treat each other culturally and respect disagreements while looking to a larger social good is what Bharat Mata actually stands for. So I think if we can take an influence from there and say, just treat your friend right. That's okay. That's it. Sometimes he will not be right. Sometimes he'll be wrong. Sometimes I'll be wrong. And if they're accepting me sometimes being wrong and vulnerable, if I accept them to be wrong and vulnerable, and they're within that ethos and the standards paradigm,
Yeah.
that's culture. That's all that matters. And we don't have a hire and fire policy here in this organization. We don't hire fast. We don't fire fast. I think a lot of business schools will not agree with this. We hire for, you spoke about hiring. We hire for attitude because I think the skill sets.
You
can
hire
be
for
given.
attitude.
We hire for attitude.
Okay.
So you may be semi-qualified. You may not be as qualified as the other competitor is. But if your attitude towards work is, not knowing is not a crime here. But not willing to learn is a crime here.
Makes sense, sir.
Yeah. So for us, and I keep telling my teams, I mean, some of them are sitting right here when we're talking, and they'll tell you exactly the same.
Yeah.
So not knowing is okay. You ask me a question, I may not know the answer right now, Akash. I'll tell you, Akash, I don't know the answer of this question.
Yeah.
How does it make me a bad person? You tell me. Who knows everything on this earth?
Very true.
So, but in this organization, not knowing is okay because it's very human. But somebody refusing to even willing to learn is not okay with us.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
But I think if that's okay, then we are sorted. Then the attitude is set. Then we'll do wonders. Don't worry.
So we're talking about, you just mentioned about the attitude and all, but I really want to know about your brave move of your career. As I came to know that you were doing you were an aviator,
Correct.
right?
So
how it, I really want to know. I did my 12th from commerce. My father wanted to me pursue CA and all. And I told my father, no, I want to join media, want to do script writing, writes a lot of things. You know?
you must have had your own fight.
Yeah, I had. Yeah. So I don't know what went, your mind and all that.
So see, from childhood, my dream was to become a pilot. Nothing else. I never thought of anything. Okay, not for anything. And God was fortunate enough that I got a chance.
So
to
just
become a pilot.
is this a commercial pilot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So I got a chance.
Okay.
And I flew, and I love flying. Even today, if you ask me, I love flying. Right. But my love for flying was more beyond just mechanical ferrying from point A to point B. It was more to, okay, let me get a bit philosophical and let me see if you can catch that. So if anybody would ask me, how do you define flying? I said, controlling a mechanical body in the sky like a bird is something that I enjoyed the most.
Okay.
So I'm trying to sound very philosophical, okay? But I'm trying to make you understand. But what does flying actually teach you? It basically is the art of navigation, of going from point A to B through an aircraft, with an aircraft. If you look at, I'll tell you the transition where it happened, but my idea was navigation and I'm still doing navigation. So navigation is the art of guiding an object from point A to B through a map. I'm still doing the same. Only that my belief was that I saw enough of navigation at 10, 15, 20,000 feet. Now I had to put my feet on the ground and ensure that I'm able to navigate the resources to impact. And as a company, if you look at it, we are still navigating the need, and we are trying to navigate it to a point where the need is, we are meeting the supply and the demand to create a social positive impact. Now, this is a good definition I gave you.
Yeah.
Take care. How the change happened. So, the change happened in 2008 when I was looking at exploring a few sectors where I could move in. One of a few sectors, like normally what would come into consulting or going into a different profession altogether, because I wanted to get out of mechanical flying into more different sectors. And I sat with what intrigued me more is social impact. But what happened is I met a lot of, I would say, good people, efficient, highly knowledgeable people from the social sector who were in NGOs. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the NGOs, but what I understood is I spoke to them, I kept meeting them. I, in fact, started writing for them some proposals and all. And I used to keep listening to them about their pressures and the tensions they were into. And I kept asking them, what keeps you awake in the night? I wanted to know, because I was greatly influenced by a thought that a dream is not the one which makes you sleep, but it's the one which makes you stay awake in the night. So my whole point was that I always wanted to ask people, what keeps you awake in the night? What keeps you awake in the night? And every time, believe you me, I used to get an answer. Not the community, not a sudden requirement, but how would the next round of funding come? How would the project be sustainable? How will we sustain this beyond us? And I understood one thing very clearly, that they're a bit far away from the decision makers. So then I started sitting and speaking to people in the government. And I understood that the process is too slow. Means by the time a decision moves from a Delhi office, an application for funding in Shastri Bhavan in Delhi, to a remote village in Odisha, by the time it comes to the stage of approval, the need might have got diminished.
And you were doing by your own.
And I was just talking to people, I was meeting people to understand the sector and space more. But then I understood that my one question that kept hitting my head is, how do you change this process of conversion of a proposal into an idea and then get the idea implemented? How do you do that? And I thought private sector was the answer. So I then wanted to know, what is the answer if I want to do a sort of a addition of a social space and I want to bring the private sector? And that is where I found out CSR is a space. And I said, that's it. Then I made up my mind that this is how it is going to now shape up. At that time, we did not have the law. We had broad concepts of CSRs followed by, conglomerates like the Birlas and the Tatas who were doing exceedingly good work and nation building. And few companies like Mahindras and all were doing great work. And they were doing great work at it. But somewhere down the line, we realized that this is the way forward. If we can teach the companies how to make their processes socially responsible, we would have done a great amount of work and service for the society. And we wanted to keep it profit oriented so that we are more accountable and sustainable in nature. So we made it into a private limited firm. So that's how, from flying to sectoral identification to private sector identification to CSR, and from there, Fiinovation. That's how the whole process changed. That's how the whole trajectory happened. And we came to that level. So this is one. And the other point was, how do you actually get on with it? It is very easy to think about something, but it is very difficult to put a process and systems in place. And that's how we kept evolving. We put a very simplistic process in place. We went ahead with it. We sort of evolved. We must have evolved by now about 6-7 times. So this is Fiinovation 6.0 or 7.0. I don't remember which 0.0, but we must have evolved by some times. Yeah. So the series of podcast is what? Fiinovation 7.0 maybe? Why did we have to do it?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. This series might just... I would expect this series to revolutionize in the next 1 year by having so many talks that you'll be talking to a lot more people now.
Yeah.
And understanding their insights. And by the end of the day, I think by the end of 1 year, we'll be able to publish a compendium of these talks. And who knows, that book becomes a bestseller. What now?
Right to say so. So I want to know your take-home knowledge from Fiinovation. if someone asks you, what is your take-home knowledge from the Fiinovation? What would be that?
Take home knowledge is accept the dynamism of a sector,
Okay.
focus on efficiency rather than scale. In today's world, I take, and whenever I'm speaking about certain sectors, I don't discredit them, but I learn from them. So I see a lot of people going for multiple rounds of valuation, raising. I'm sure they have a logic behind it.
Yeah.
And suddenly if one round collapses, huge number of people lose, and the objective of the company also gets a bit dent. From day one take home that we always have taken home back, the learning is we will work with efficiency, we will maintain leanness in the team, we will take care of our members of the team in every way possible, build up a sort of a unit which will focus on maybe smaller number of clients. We now have a huge number of clients, but I'm still trying to be modest. So focus on smaller number of clients, but focus on so much of efficiency that those clients cannot do without us anymore. So my take home is go slow, go steady, be focused, but be open to adapt new changes.
Okay.
If you get a chance, build bridges, don't build walls. So if we would be only thinking about how to keep working the way we were in 2009-10 or 13-14, we wouldn't be around for 18 years. We are here because this is what we do, and we have been changing our paradigm, adapting technology, human intelligence, everything. Maybe a bit slower, but not very slow. We have been quite adaptive in our change. So take home is efficiency, slow but steady. Learn to accept that more is to be learned, and take care of your people. And focus on your core area. That's it. Just focus on your core area. And that's why our tagline is also positive impact. Yeah, positive impact, because that is where we want to focus on. So if my existence in the system, if Fiinovation's existence in the ecosystem does not create positive impact, why do you exist at all?
Yeah, very true. So one more query. How do you see Fiinovation in coming 5 to 10 years, down the line?
Okay, in 5 to 10 years, I didn't know about this war going to happen this year. 5 to 10 years is a huge dynamic process. I don't know how it's all going to happen. The world is changing so fast. The moment you change. Let me talk about a 5-year vision. Okay? 10-year vision, we'll talk after 3 years. Okay. So 5-year vision is we want to be the pioneers in this sector. We want to touch 100 million lives, create positive impact in their lives. That is not only by getting projects on the ground, but also helping corporations to manage their social return on investment reports, impact reports, and create an ecosystem where these reports actually get translated into further development of projects. So usually these reports what come on the deck are just to analyze and see what you have done. But we would love to actually go into a venture now where these reports are also should forecast what has to be done, what needs to be done. I wanted to go from A to D, but I've only traveled from A to B as a company. My impact report should then tell me what changes I need to bring in order to reach to D as fast as possible. So again, art of navigation. We want to navigate and we want to keep on navigating the resources to the people who need it the most, to the communities who need it the most. At the same time, I think we are going big time in tech now. We are adapting artificial intelligence and automation in a great way. So we want to make it cost efficient, but we also want to amalgamate technology with human intelligence so that we can become one of the most pioneer consulting advisory firms in social responsibility, ESG compliance in this country. So 5 years, our objective is very clear. In terms of revenue, I seriously don't want to comment about it because I think I'm not looking for investment right now. So I don't want to focus on the revenue front, but the revenue has been kind to us. We are bootstrapped. I told you earlier, I don't know whether we would need investment. Maybe to get in more technology, we require investment. We will approach investment cycles if required, but not out of greed. It will only be out of need.
Okay.
That's it. So everyone, all promoters, founders, directors are all salaried employees of the organization. So there's nobody who is taking dividend out of the profit. So that's the reason why I'm not actually coming to the revenue cycles, because I believe if we are able to achieve what I just told you about being the pioneer in the sector, revenue will come. It's not a problem.
It's a kind of a byproduct.
It's a kind of byproduct.
Yeah.
As long as that's not your area of motivation, and your work is something else, and you're so good at your work, it will come. Revenue will come, because I think good products and good services do exist, provided they're adapting with change. That's it.
Sir, I really want to congratulate you for one thing. I was going through social media and found India's first AI CSR bulletin. So I really want to congratulate you for that.
You have to congratulate my media team for that. I think we just thought that we had a thought about, I think about 4-5 months back, we had a thought that we should start something. Again, people are used to reading press releases.
Yeah.
These days we have Google alerts or news alerts where we see, okay, this project is launched. We have done it for years together. We have our project launch news have come. But there were two important reasons for it. One, we wanted to make it interesting for the new generation.
Yeah.
Because everybody is on the move. Reading a text for 2-page news release or a press release becomes very difficult. And somewhere down the line, people lose interest. And the actual focus of the press release, which is like not propagating the company and actually focusing on how much impact it is creating, gets lost. So what is the best way for us to get the attention of the people to focus that, look, this kind of a positive work has been done on the ground by these corporations. The best way for us is to go with social media, channels like YouTube and other channels. And we thought, how can we have, again, thought of imagination, why don't we start a CSR news bulletin? And we said, okay, let's do a demo. I think our team did a fantastic job. They came up with the demo. We all appreciated the demo. In fact, the whole office actually saw the demo and they appreciated. I took feedback from other people. There were a few nudges that we wanted to create. But even then, we took about 3-4 months. So every Monday and Thursday, you will get to hear the CSR bulletin. And if you keep following it, I request you to keep following it.
Yeah.
You will hear the positive CSR stories in this country that have happened that deserve a highlight every Monday and Thursday on our news bulletin. And those will be available across channels. In fact, most of the people in the social space will get it on their WhatsApps and everything. So you just need a 3 or a 5-minute news bulletin. We have made it look like it's a conventional news bulletin.
Yeah.
And I hope it works. I hope we'll not stop at it.
Yeah.
It's just one stage.
Yeah.
We'll keep evolving on it.
Yeah.
But it's a good start point. Yeah. But the entire credit goes to my team. I only have told, we can do it together. That's all.
And I urge our viewers to please go through that and subscribe channel and just watch that AI bulletin, CSR bulletin. So now we have almost reached 60% of our today's conversation actually. So now I have 2 segments left. One is for CSR and second one is AI, of course. So I really want to talk about CSR ground reality.
Okay.
So
what exactly?
I mean, firstly, I really want to know, because there are lots of technical terms are there, ROIs, a lot of things are there. As a layman, CSR, what is CSR? If someone wants to know, or that person is not at all interested or not related to this field, how should we convey to them or make them understand that what is CSR?
Okay, so first of all, you have to understand 2% percentile of your profit given back to the society is not. That's not just CSR. Right.
So you're saying just 2% is not the CSR?
No, it's not the entire concept of CSR.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
First, we have to get this thing out of our head.
Okay.
This is not good. This is not CSR is not only 2%, right? So get out of it. In fact, I would also go on to stretch the fact that majority of the companies are investing more than 2%. So companies which are doing CSR are not doing it because of the 2% mandate only. A part of the companies are doing it because they fall into that criteria. But that is not the sole purpose of it. So I'll give you a small example. Examples make it easier for us to understand. Suppose there's an industry. I'll have to tell you, in life it is important to understand what you're not rather than trying to understand what you are. So going with that understanding, let's just imagine that you have a factory which operates on a riverbed.
Okay.
Or operates very near to a river. You discharge toxic chemicals into the river without treatment. And downstream villages get toxic river water to drink and otherwise. And it's happening. Like, for all legal issues, I can't tell you the names and the rivers, but it's happening. If you go on search on Google, you will find this is happening. This is a very real story.
Yeah.
Now, thousands of lives are getting affected, but the same company invests 2% in building up a school. Here is the dichotomy. Is the company, just because it's giving 2%, is socially responsible? Nobody on the earth can answer this question as yes. That means, in one line, if I have to define, corporate social responsibility is not a percentile of the profit that you give back to the society in any way. It is how you get that profit, how you make that profit. So, for example, I'll tell you, if you treat your employees well, if you follow the law of the land, if you're adhering to environment standards, if you're maintaining working place ethics, and you're also doing what you're supposed to do under the giving back mechanism of 2% or 3%, whatever it is, then you are socially responsible. That means within the paradigm of economic ecology, you're absolutely functioning in sync. CSR is not about just a percentage of the profit you give back. It is about how you get that profit. Now imagine that same company, that same factory that I spoke to you about. Imagine revisiting the same factory. But now this time, every liter of toxic waste, liquid waste that it is pushing away in the river is treated within the plant itself. And the toxicity is taken out. It is disposed in the most scientific manner. And the water is recycled and used for all recyclable uses in the factory itself. And no discharge is given to the water. And then also the company invests the percentage of profit in social balance. So now they're not damaging environment.
Yeah.
They're not damaging health. They're behaving in a socially responsible manner. And thereafter, they're completing that giving back component of 2%. This is where the 2% comes in. So whether it is 2, 3, 5, doesn't matter. But then you're building. These kind of companies are to be called socially responsible. This is what is corporate social responsibility.
It's a true social, corporate responsibility.
Correct. So it is not just 2%. And you know, this 2% did a lot of good, but it also did a lot of harm. In the concept part of it, a majority of our population has now understood that 2% is a lot of young students. I teach in colleges, and whenever I ask them, what do you understand by CSR? They usually go back to this 2% definition. And then I give similar sort of an example and try and make them understand, and then they get it clear. You can't be existing in an environment where you're violating all the social laws, and just by giving a 2% or a 3%, you can't be socially responsible. So this is what I think we have to define corporate social responsibility as a responsibility of the corporates to behave in a socially responsible manner, which includes a component of giving back to the society if you fall in the criteria of giving back.
Okay.
That.
So backstage, I mean, your team, we all are, we were talking about Schedule 7. So I'm quite new for this term actually, to be honest. So they said there are some factors. So you cannot say that everything is CSR. So there are some criteria. So what is Schedule 7?
So under the section 135, there are few subtopics put under Schedule 7. So the government defines that the 2% mandate will validate your CSR contribution only if you contribute your 2% under the following 10 or 11 heads. Now it has poverty eradication plans, a revival of heritage monuments. It covers more or less, water Namami Gange plan is there. A lot of these subtopics are put in. If it's like a Indianized version of SDGs, right? So we have about 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Say for example, Sustainable Development Goal 6 speaks of ending poverty by 2030, right? I tend to feel, I don't know whether I may be wrong in this, but in my understanding, it says it's sort of an Indianized version of SDGs, where the definition of CSR, it was very important because when the law came in, temple building, before the law came in, temple building in a real estate complex was also treated as CSR because there was no law. So the absence of evidence was the evidence of absence, right? So what Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee and the rest of the teams, and I was lucky enough to be a part of the initial level of the discussions, what everyone could manage to do is put a chart in place, to which I really appreciate the fact that they put a chart where it said that it needed a guiding factor. It needed a navigation principle that if you invest under these 5 or 6 criteria initially, which is now about 10 or 11 or 12 maybe, under these criteria, only then it will be considered CSR. Okay. So these were poverty alleviation, Namami Gange was added, there were little other subsections were added. So more or less the companies had a predefined goal sheet. They knew I had to invest 1 rupee now. I fit into the criteria and I have to invest this 1 rupee in these sectors. Only then I'll be considered as my investment will be considered as CSR. And I must tell you, taking a cue out of this, from here our own departmental functions also started. Means we also started, when we started the organization, we were very centric to one team functioning like a portfolio banker, but now we work like investment bankers.
Okay.
So this is interesting, and a lot of people, when I say this, they get amused. What are you talking about? So what does an investment banker do? He takes the resources, divides it in multiple baskets, and sort of creates optimum value for you over a period of time, right? For us, we treat grant opportunities as investment bankers. The corporations come to us, they ask us to allocate grants, they wanted to know what projects they should do. We align them with their objectives of the company, which are usually within the paradigms of SDGs and Schedule 7 articles. And then we design the projects for them. We also identify what geography they want to go in. And then we look at 2 important points. What is the impact that is going to be created, which should align with the ethos and the values of the corporation which is contributing for that project? What community is going to get benefited from it? And at the end of the day, how can we treat grant as an investment? So the major focus now of our company, Fiinovation, is to treat grant as an investment. So usually what happens, people tend to believe that grants are a one-way traffic. If you just change your mindset, and if you just say, now I'll treat grants as investments, you need to have 2 important things. You need to have a geographical sort of an indicator of impact, what you want to achieve, and then you need to have an exit strategy. So any investor would like to have the return calculation on the investment made and an exit strategy. Nobody wants to be invested for life, right? We want to create ecosystems where, say for example, Akash has a company which has 20 crores to deploy in a certain geography. We identify what is the real need of this geography, not the felt need. Now there are a lot of needs which are reported in the media which are all felt needs. Okay, like having a smartphone is a real need, but having an iPhone is a felt need.
Yeah,
you understanding the difference?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say. So a lot of organizations have this understanding of felt needs.
It's a kind of a luxury or necessity kind of a thing.
Need and want.
Yeah, need and want. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
keep it to need and want,
Yeah.
right? So what happens is a lot of people sitting in Bombay or Bangalore in the corporate boardrooms
Yeah.
would want to go through secondary research and develop an understanding about what would be the real need, which actually would be a felt need.
Okay.
When you go on the ground, you would realize that the real need may be something else. Let me give you a small example. We did a project in Haryana a few years back. And the problem that the corporation was trying to address is, why are there less girls in the classrooms? Right. At that time, there was a gender ratio also fight that was happening in Haryana. But there was massive shortfall of girls in the classrooms. And this was a study which was done by a lot of organizations and came out. A few corporations approached us and said that we want to look at scholarship as one of the plan to do it. This is a kind of felt need. So our team said, okay, let us go to those areas in Haryana and figure out whether it is a real need or a felt need, and let us prepare. We do a baseline assessment. Let's do a need assessment and a baseline study. Once we did that, we understood the real problem is not the girls from the classroom. The real problem is the timing of the school, and in the absence of roads, the school buses would never reach there.
Okay.
And the law and order situation is such that after 4 o'clock, the girls would not be free to roam around in the rural parts of Haryana. So we spoke to the government, and the government was aware of it, and they wanted to do something. So we spoke to some district collectors. They said, let's work together. And you won't believe, we presented this to the corporation. They waited for some time. The government actually joined hands with the private corporation, saying that, okay, you take care of the school upgradation and infrastructure and the scholarship. The government will take care of the roads. And you won't believe, Akash, in 1 year, when we did an outcome analysis, there was 37% more attendance of girls in schools. So this is what happens basically on the ground. The real need, unless and until examined and felt, remains a felt need if only done from your Google search or any secondary resource. So that is what I think sets our organization different. As we kept evolving, we understood we can't remain only as investment bankers. Now we have a diversified organization. So I'll give you some examples. So when a corporation comes and approaches us, they want to, you must have heard about this end-to-end solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Normally industry speaks about this language, end-to-end solution. Okay. I could never understand how can a service end.
End. Yeah.
It's a cradle-to-cradle concept, right? So when you're starting your end-to-end means you're already speaking about end. I don't know, it's a negative term. I said it's a start-to-start.
Yeah.
So in social sector, we call cradle-to-grave or cradle-to-cradle. So this concept comes from recycling. So if you, like plastic, is a cradle-to-grave.
Yeah.
Right?
Cradle-to-grave, yeah.
It's non-recyclable.
Non-recyclable, yeah.
But if you use recycled material, it is cradle-to-cradle.
Yeah.
Again, a new beginning happens. We wanted to create an organization like that. So what we did, we diversified. We said, okay, we will behave like investment grant bankers, where we have the trust of the corporations. But at the same time, we will have to also ensure that our sectors are very defined. So we have specialized teams in health, education, environment, natural resource management, skills. We have a separate team dedicated of very, very superb members in the monitoring evaluation team, which extensively doing impact assessment and SROI assignments, baseline studies, midterm assignments, outcome analysis. Now even your Section 135 mandates impact assessment as a part of report that needs to be published and submitted to the MCA. So we have diversified. The reason why you and I are sitting here today is because the push of my media team.
Okay.
One of the questions that people ask is, what is wrong with you guys? Why do you have a media team? But you know what? I'll tell you an interesting story. You can give a soft copy report. But I have often seen when the reports designed by our media team are felt and read through by corporations as well as implementing agencies on the ground, they have a different feeling altogether. Because suddenly they're feeling that I have a report which is world class at an Indian cost. So it's a better report than a lot of other competitors. It's a faster report and it's a cheaper report. So we deliver better, faster, cheaper.
So is it the answer of my next question, like how Fiinovation helps corporate and CSOs?
It's a part. It's a stretch of that answer.
Yeah.
It's a stretch of that answer in continuity.
Yeah.
So if a corporation comes to us, then we tell them that all you need to do is trust us. Take one step at a time. And what we will do is we will ensure we do our baselines, align it with your ethos and understanding. Along with it, design the projects, help you identify the implementing partners on the ground. So we work with about 2,500 plus partners on the ground, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari to Arunachal to the western, to Barmer, Jaisalmer. We go to that corner. We have implemented projects all over India. And we sort of select agencies who can be best suited to these corporations and then sort of align with them, carry out their due diligence, make all the stakeholders meet each other, understand the objectives of each other, go on the community, help the implementing partners implement the project, translate that data with the help of technology and human intervention to the corporation, complete the cycle of the project, including reporting of the impact, publishing the impact, then having, I'll give you a small example. The media team makes a video of 3 minutes.
Yeah.
You as a CFO want to present your CSR initiative to the board. And you say, today I'm going to give you a document in hand, but I also want you to see this video. And it's a 3-minute video prepared by the media team of Fiinovation. And you have the visual presence and you have the physical presence on the report. Imagine the effect it will create. The investors will actually sit in that room and realize that every rupee that went on the ground, I could now put a face. I now know that girl, who is that girl whose life transformed because of our investment in the project. So we even cover that media side of it. So we don't go to an outsourced agency. We do it in-house. And then we have data intelligence unit. We have technology units. Now we are starting with AI units who are going to look into automation and AI. Because we don't want to be in a state of denial. That is the way we have to move forward. Yeah. But that's how we're going to do. Even with AI, I'm 100% sure that we are not going to replace humans. We are going to redeploy them. And I always keep arguing with people. I hear the industry standard.
I also, few people from the social development sector, they say human touch is always there. I mean, human needs will be always there. And empathy and all that. AI cannot give you the empathy things.
No, it cannot. I agree with them fully.
Yeah.
But I'll also tell you a lot of work which was considered to be human. Let's, for example, take an example. Before the computerization happened all over the world, the largest number of people who were employed in a bank used to do what? They used to calculate in calculators. Yeah. So the whole day they would sit and calculate. The computers came and removed the requirement the moment they arrived. But the positive side was, even the computer needed a person behind. The problem with AI is, they don't need a person behind.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But I'll tell you, one of the most safest places, and for the younger generation, I want to tell this through your podcast, that the most safest place to put their bet is CSR. Why? Because AI will come, has come, and is here to stay. Let's be very clear. But AI is going to do your data analytics to some extent. It is going to do mapping. It is going to do cleaning of data.
Yeah.
It is going to do assimilation of data, and it can develop into dashboards. It can turn real-time information into dashboard,
data representation, all that,
and presentation.
Yeah.
But it cannot sit down with a district collector in a rural part of Maharashtra and discuss with him his difficulties and try to figure out a solution. And can go to Odisha and figure out that the solution that he found out in Maharashtra will not work in Odisha. It will work in a different community, because every community is different. Every climate is different. Every geography is different. So is the need. So that differentiating factor between the real need and the felt need will never be done by AI. It will have to be done by human intelligence and empathy.
Yeah, AI cannot do this FGD thing and all that.
No.
Yeah.
It cannot. It cannot. You won't know how to talk. See, 10 men together in a focus group discussion and 10 women together in
Yeah.
a focus group discussion
Yeah.
is a paradigm shift in the way you approach it.
Yeah.
How can you put AI there? And the investments that you're putting in the community, if you can translate that data and send it back. For example, you can say that number of students who attended because you built a school is this much. Now, attendance went up this much. Marks went up this much. Average income went up this much. All of this. But you need the understanding of bringing back students to the school. If they're dropouts, what are the problems they're facing? Are they facing community-related problems? For example, AI can help you create that data, which will help you. I'm sure it will help you. But ultimately, you will have to create irrigation systems for farmers to be happy in this country, other than the policies. You will have to create systems. So who will do that? So I think in this space, in the social space, especially in the CSR space, we will not need to do human replacement. We will have to redeploy them. So people will have to skill up. So I used to be only a notebook pen kind of a person.
Yeah.
Today, I believe if you don't, if my monitoring team works on AI and they analyze data, if I don't sit with them and if I'm not knowledgeable enough in that, I won't understand half of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because this generation is racing ahead with AI and every minute they're expanding their source.
So everyone is saying कि AI से job चली जाएगी and all that. So how do you see this CSR sector in terms of AI and all that?
So see, we don't highly depend on coding and all those
Yeah.
stuff. So there are some sectors which are going to be highly disrupted, are already disrupted, right? Coding, software analytics and all that stuff. But given for any youngster who's coming out of the college, who's looking forward to getting employed or to start his own journey, I think CSR specifically, because I would want to be in that area of domain and not start commenting on other professions.
Yeah.
But in CSR, there's a strong requirement which is currently there. Take for example, we are hiring people and we are on a hiring spree because we are expanding now and we want to expand our footprints further. There are a lot many other organizations are also doing the same. Any space which has got community to work with has space for humans to work in it. So CSR is like a hinge in between the social space and the private capital. And in this hinge is where every young member or otherwise who wants to enter into this area can enter, irrespective of whether having sufficient knowledge in AI or not. It will help if they have a little bit of additional knowledge about AI. But I think it is a much safer place as far as the disruption of AI is concerned, because you'll always require human-centric empathy and understanding as the foundation to build any successful or impactful project.
Okay.
So AI will disrupt, but it will disrupt a lot of desk work. But if we redeploy the same human resource on the ground, it will also be a force multiplier.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am not, in my space, I'm very optimistic about AI. I'm not pessimistic, unlike a lot of other people. Yeah. So if for the young generation, if they're listening to us right now, come and join. We are here. Come and join us. And many other organizations, they can actually go and join. Why not?
So one more question regarding CSR. Is there any particular qualifications required to join or to enter this sector?
No. The best part of an aviator is sitting in front of you
Yeah.
in the CSR space.
Yeah.
And you're asking me questions about CSR. I have no social sector qualification. Although my team has. A lot of them have. Like Masters of Social Work, PhD in Social Work, and a lot of PhDs actually work with us. But my PhD came long after. It's in the later part of my career. My PhD did not come at the initial level. So I was not like educationally qualified to be in the social work. But why do you need to be educationally qualified to be in the social work? If you really are in the social and socio-private space, you need to have an intent. You need to be good at something, at some sector, and then just come on with your intent. Skilling, is it a difficult task? I don't know. These days, I'll give you an example. if this kind of AI environment would have existed, and this kind of YouTube environment where Harvard classes are online these days, I had a great chance of attending both Harvard and Stanford for some courses, and I hold these institutions at the highest regard. But today I feel I could have all those classes are today online.
Yeah.
So if learning is your only requirement, then there is no limitation to it. There is no limiting bar to it.
Everything is there.
Everything is available,
Yeah.
provided you want to learn. Social sector is something where you need your willingness to learn and your intent to work.
And zeal also.
And zeal also.
Yeah.
So you can actually choose. And for youngsters, I would advise two things. Please identify at a very early stage what you want to do. There are two things in the social space. If you think you want to work with the community, you want to be on the ground, you want to be in the dust, then join the implementation side with NGOs. But if you want to have processes, systems laid out, and you think you're very good at it, then you should join the CSR bandwagon. Because what we do is we put systems and processes for communities to be empowered and be facilitated. So in both sides, you have opportunities. It is for the individual to understand what I want to do and then decide which paradigm I want to go. I want to go to the private corporation side, the giving side, donor side, or you want to go to the implementation side. That's what you want to do. But you got to decide. And both spaces have enough scope.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So,
Yes, sir. And for the Fiinovation, if I may ask, according to you, who is or I should say, which NGO is a good partner in terms of your work?
this is actually a very interesting question because this is an evolving question. So I think if you are an implementing partner who's got real footprint on the ground, who has some credible work to show, with a minimum of a few years of experience on the ground, with a sustainable workforce. I'm not saying you need to have hundreds of people, workforce, and with your statutory regulatory mechanisms in place. You are a good prospective partner for us, and we can look at, if you are at that level, maybe your budgets, your annual turnovers may range from 10 lakh rupees to about 10 crores, but you are a good client for us, because then what we can do is we can scale you up. We can scale you up through your projects, and we can also help the corporations who come to us by aligning them with you very fast. So I think that would be a right fit organization for us in 4 or 5 points.
Okay. And for this innovation, since it's been more than a decade and more than that actually.
Nearly 2 decades.
2 decades, yeah. So what kind of a challenges you have faced actually?
Survival is a great question.
Okay.
Because before the mandate,
Yeah.
a lot of people used to ask us, why don't you become an NGO? Why don't you start implementing yourself?
Okay.
How long are you going to survive? What if companies don't receive you? What if companies don't open their doors to you and say that, okay, you are this and we are not okay with... CSR is a concept, good, I advocate it, but we'll look at it later. We didn't give up. So what happens in life, I'll tell you a philosophy, what works. Fiinovation is based on a non-FOMO kind of a concept. So we strongly believe that, and I think the larger team actually believes on it. And now that you've spoken, it's coming to my mind in real time. If something is avoidable, then step back. So we don't have FOMO. We don't have to be everywhere. So you would see that we are not organizing conferences. I have nothing against people who are conducting conferences. Okay, we have attended a few, and we have hardly seen results coming out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but we decided we are not going to get into that. We are not going to organize CSR conferences for sure. You and me talking right now, people listening. In fact, you asking these questions and me reflecting back is teaching me something.
Okay.
We both will land up with some learning.
Yeah.
And the audience will land up with some learning.
Yeah.
Right. So we gain something. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So if you look at how we have evolved, is if something is avoidable, step back. But if something is unavoidable, like AI, like COVID, then get in. Then don't take half measures. We call ourselves a social sector hinge provider, and we backfoot ourselves at the time of COVID when the people need us most. We don't have the moral right to say that we are a socio-private organization if we don't serve the purpose at that point of time. So my team was on the ground. We were on the ground, serving people, getting projects on the ground, obviously around COVID. But that's what gives you the kick. That's what gives you the real impetus to what you feel. So as a company, we don't want to do everything, but we want to do few things in a brilliant way. So a lot of people ask, so we keep fighting in bids with companies like Deloitte, EY, KPMG and all those companies. We just won against one of them a few days back. We lost a couple of them 2 months back. This keeps happening. But I'm talking about impact assessment studies. But if you honestly ask me, I think these companies have been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
And they have no dearth of talent. They have done brilliant. And even today, they are doing phenomenal work. Let me take nothing away from them. But what keeps us is that we are not fighting to become the next Deloitte or a KPMG or a McKinsey. We are not fighting. We are wanting to be the best version of innovation.
Very, very nice. Nicely said, sir.
And to do that, we have to carve our way where we are ahead of the curve. So you just spoke about the CSR news bulletin. That is a pointer direction that why not explore this place? Now, once we start, what if there are 10 more people who start the same thing? Good. So we have started a new phenomena, right? I'm sure with my team, by the time the 10th person comes in, we will be again ahead of the curve in something or the other. So that also keeps us on our foot, right? So competition is good. It's healthy. But we don't want to become a second version of somebody or some institution. We want to become the best version of ourselves. So at Fiinovation, our factual evolution on a daily basis is, are we learning enough? And what is the way forward on this? We'll keep learning, we'll keep moving forward. That's what we are.
So one more thing, I want to talk about the ground reality. A lot of people says that, okay, CSR is there, things are getting better, but it could have been done, much better than what we are looking at, right? What do you see? How do you say, how do you see things? Or I should say, which one thing is blocking all of the impact actually? One thing. What's the block point over there?
I think the absence of a translator.
The absence of
Translators.
In terms of, in what sense?
In a sense that there are phenomenal agencies who are working on the ground.
Okay.
And there are phenomenal corporations which are working with the communities, but also want to do more.
Okay.
But the absence of a credible translator to translate and change the community information into a business communication is really causing the problem. So, for example, I may be extremely good at working on the ground, but I may be extremely bad at preparing reports which can be presented in the boardrooms. I may be extremely good at preparing reports on the board in the boardrooms through all the platforms and technology, but I may never have put foot on the ground. This gap is creating a wall. But I'm absolutely hopeful. See, when we started this journey, it was about 10 to 11,000 crores of investment annually. Today, you're sitting with at least 40,000 crores of investment annually in CSR space. Imagine the leap that it has taken. And next year, it is going to increase. More and more number of companies are going to come on the ground. A lot of this money, I can't guarantee, but I think is also not been calibrated and measured properly. But I think given that a lot of companies like us will tomorrow start operating into the impact system, and now that the government has mandated, under a certain limit for them to show the impact, I think companies and community organizations have a long way to go, but the story is just getting started. The story is not ending. So I think one bottleneck, if you ask, where it's getting stuck is because of the absence of the translation. That is where companies like Fiinovation or anybody can come in and facilitate that process. I'm not pitching my company here, to be very frank, but I'm talking about what we do. So that is what we do. We just translate. We just help. We are not mediators. We are not platform builders. We are not the Amazon of social space. Yeah. Right? We don't make purchaser-seller meet here. What we do is translate. You take a community need and design it in a way that the stakeholder in the corporation understands it, adopts it, then retranslate it back in a deliverable language and make the community achieve its goals and create a positive impact at the end of the day. So I think the lack of a lot of people in the translation space is causing problems. So I think a lot of people are doing a lot of good job, but as long as that translation architecture is not ready, we will face a bit of difficulty. But I'm sure over the period of time, we will get over it. The architecture will be placed.
If I ask you to rate India's CSR activity and mood, how much you going to rate out of 10?
I would rate it a 6.5, not more than that. Because a lot of it has to now start getting reported.
And any experience?
Yeah, so for example, there are a lot of people who are doing CSR. So let me talk about MSMEs here. You have MSMEs in India with 1,000 crore turnover, with a 500 crore turnover. Now I'll give you a small example. Let's say there is a garment SEZ in a place in South India, where you and I have two small firms and we have 50 lakhs of deployable resource for CSR. And we want to do it in our local area community where it benefits the local population or where we operate upon. A 50 lakh, and you don't have access to Deloitte, KPMG or any other organization. You're also skeptical that they will charge more, which they do. They'll charge more, and you don't know if innovation exists or anybody else exists. So in the lack of that information, what happens is you deploy a part of that 50 lakh, say about you decide I'll give 10 lakhs in blanket donation. So your conscience is okay that you've done that, but it actually does not, in long term, it will not lead to a great impact. Now imagine both of us are MSME owners and we have 50 lakh deployable resource for CSR together. And now we have 1 crore where we decide 5 lakh, we'll give it to a good firm which will design a project, do the assessment, implement the project for us and give us an impact report. And we would be confident enough that we have created positive impact in the lives of people. That segment is completely out of the way right now. And I think it's the way forward. MSMEs have to be given due respect and CSR. Allocations will go multifold. We often tend to only discuss the large cap companies. When we give examples, we forget what the potential. India's economic spine is its MSMEs. Is not only its large companies. Because these MSMEs are the suppliers to the large companies.
Yeah.
So that's how you operate. That's how you go to realize how it works.
So, with the Fiinovation, if I ask anything which surprised you in terms of your partner or any client, any experience where you say, we
survived 18 years, is a surprise for us. We didn't think we'll survive for 18 months. We thought we'll have to change. You're asking for a surprise. I didn't know how many people stuck around. I don't know why people come back to work every day. We do some objective work, we create positive impact and we create an intent and people come back and clients come and show their trust. I think their trusteeship is the greatest thing. There are multiple corporations. For example, ABB, DP World, you're one of the greatest Dubai ports. We have a large portfolio with them. We have ABB with us. We are reporting for them. We have SMS. We have, you name the company, JK Tire, SM, Green Hack. We have n number of companies showing their trust in us. This gives you confidence that you're doing something right. Plus, बहुत दूर का सोचना छोड़ना पड़ेगा, है ना? वो सदी के चक्कर में नदी निकल जाएगी.
Nice, you said.
So basically, you have to focus on what you can do for the next 2 years, right? set a team in place, set a micro goal in place. And I think every year is a surprise for us that one more year has gone and we have done well. One more year has done well. Some years are difficult, some years are good. But at the end of the day, we are bonded together. We have been around for 18 years. We are doing good work. We have prospect of work for the next 5 years. And that's how we keep working. In fact, in our organization, I'm telling you very frankly, if we have a runway of operations for the next 4 months, we are good to go. So if you tell me, are your corpus reserves enough for the next 2 years? No, it's not. Because we are completely always in a deployment stage of resources. Now AI is coming in, so we'll have to deploy resources to it. If we have 4 months or 5 months of runway, we are good to go. So every month we take on 5 months of runway. That's how we operated until now. So the greatest surprise is not the trusteeship. We must have done something right to get that trusteeship from our clients. But the greatest surprise is that we are around and we are going to be around for so long.
CSR is a liability or an opportunity?
So suppose you become a parent.
Yeah.
Is your investments are going to increase? So has to your income. Your child will require investments from day one, from diaper changing to marriage. You will have responsibilities. I'm talking about Indian context. How can a child be differentiated between a liability and an asset? CSR is the child of the social space. It is never going to be a liability if done right. But if done wrong, it can be a big liability. If you bring up your child with the best possible values in the world, you don't have to ask this question, whether it's a liability, whether he or she is a liability or an asset. CSR is always going to be an opportunity as long as you have the right intent and the right spirit behind it. If you do it with the wrong intent, it can backfire you. I'll give you a small example. I think about 20 crores I just read a news about a few days back, if I'm not wrong, and you can get this data right and correct me
Yes, sir.
if I'm wrong. I think about 20 crores have been, is the value, 20 crore rupees of penalties that have been levied on companies for not adhering to CSR compliances in the last couple of years. So I'm just giving you an example. News is widely off.
Yeah.
And I think it's 20 crores or something. So, and it just goes on to say that CSR is a sector. It's a concept. If you treat it with respect, dignity, and with the right set of values, it's an opportunity for you. If you treat it in an undignified manner and use it only as a scapegoat, it is going to become a liability for you. And this is a final example. And that's how it is. So it's like with everything. I just give you the example of being a father of two. I know, they're my assets. I'm investing everything on them. Why would they be liabilities? Right. So any child, if brought up well, why would they be liabilities? But the right set of values have to be put in. So when you're setting up teams, you need to be very, very careful. When you're setting up CSR policies, you need to be very, very careful. That's how it is.
Yes, sir. And these days, especially on Instagram, we see a lot of reels regarding civic sense. Even we also have seen a report called, where they have mentioned how the Indian civic sense is there. And it's not good actually. How do you see civic sense actually affects this whole motive of CSR and all that?
See, first of all, I'm not on the Instagram,
Okay.
but I know what you're talking about. Right. So let me give you an example again. The government constructs urban toilets, right? I'm talking about the non-sulabh, non-maintained, non-managed toilets, urinals.
Where we don't have to pay anything.
Yeah, you don't got to pay anything.
Yeah.
You must have seen those
Yeah.
standing urinals for men, especially. I think that also needs a serious relook because, women with a population as equal as men in India, we don't have sufficient sanitation facilities for women. And we work in this space, so therefore I'm telling you about it. Let's take the example of Delhi. We are sitting in Delhi.
Yeah.
Let's take the example of Delhi. Google has mapped I think Google has mapped, and all other maps have also mapped such toilet complexes and urinals at places. If you go to any urinal today in Delhi, be honest in this conversation and tell me how many people use it. Not because they don't want to use it. Now, there is a basic lack of civic sense, that is fine. So, one is civic sense and one is enforcement. Now, if you go to those urinals, I can guarantee you today, 70% of those urinals won't have continuous water supply. Unlike the urinals that you use in the airports, which are like state of the art.
Yeah.
Right? Because it is customized to be built for the A league of the society, right? So, they don't have water supply. Or when it was started and inaugurated, the water supply was there. After that, nobody. So, you would see all sorts of fluids flowing out of that and causing stink. People would not go. And in fact, on the contrary, you would actually see people urinating on the wall of it from the outside.
Yeah.
Which creates more problem. A CSR normally, if I would be ready to invest my capital in something like this, say for example, a sanitary ware company comes into existence and says, okay, what we will do is we will take the entire open urinals of East Delhi or West Delhi or any one segment, deploy capital, put our supplies of water. The government has prepared an infrastructure. We will be responsible maintaining it. You must have seen a lot of parks, roundabouts, where it's written that this park is maintained by so-and-so limited company.
Right.
Let's do it with urinals. You can use your own sanitary ware. So I would say, I don't know how much of this is marketing, but you can use your own sanitary places. You can write that this is managed by so-and-so company. You can give a 24-hour water supply. Keep the area clean. Design it in a certain way. I can tell you about 50 to 60% tectonic shift will happen on the behavioral side of the people. They would want to go in. Right. The other 50% is based on awareness. I think the initial burst of Swachhata campaign run by the Prime Minister was a brilliant campaign.
Yeah.
Right. It was a brilliant campaign. I don't know where it lost the steam. But I think that should have continued till date with full vigor and force. Look at cities like Indore. Why is it getting the Clean City Award year after year, year after year, year after year? That means the local agencies and the private companies are getting together to bring some change. Why is Delhi not getting that reward? Why is other cities not getting that reward? So I think civic sense needs investment, but also awareness. If you get these two, I think a lot of this will sort out. I think a very localized, I gave you a very localized example because we see it every day. But so many localized, 4 companies take care of South, East, West and North Delhi. You see the entire Delhi open urinal structure changing. And it won't require crores and crores of rupees. It would just require consistent support and monitoring. That's it. You tag it in Google and any other maps, but if it is not usable, what good does the map do?
Right.
You have an air runway, but you don't have aircrafts. What is the runway doing?
Yeah.
You're locating the runway, good, but no aircrafts. What is the airport good mean for? So you have an open urinal where you can't go within 100 meters of that urinal because of the stink. Forget about using it.
Yeah.
So if we can resolve that issue very locally with a local company and put an ad, this is managed by, like the way they do in parks, and you manage it, you see how transformation happens, and then start awareness campaigns. Right. That's how cities like Indore have become the cleanest cities in India.
True. So coming to this Indore part, so I want to switch to the last segment, not the least, which is rapid fire, sir. So my first question would be your favorite book.
My Experiments with Truth, Mahatma Gandhi. I treat it as a autobiographical guidance, and to a great extent, I think Discovery of India, because when I keep reading Discovery of India
by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yeah, and I think the way he wrote was very simple in English, and I love history being written in simple English. And so I think 2 of the greatest books of influences are these books.
City or village?
Depends upon the mood. If it's pollution time in Delhi, village. If it's non-polluting time in Delhi, city is also okay. Not a problem. Depends upon the time. Yeah. But usually my idea is to be a bit away from the city, maddening place. Yeah. It gives me a bit of peace. Yeah. वो बोलते ना कि वो घर में एक झरोखा का होना जरूरी है.
Yeah.
So it's like that small ventilator that we used to have in our homes earlier. Nowadays it's all covered, centralized AC. But we used to have that jharokha where even if the fans won't work, electricity won't be there, you'll still get ventilation.
Yeah.
I think you should have a place like this where you can go back actually and you can reclaim yourself after this run.
Excellent. Sandesh or Kalakand?
Kalakand.
And pav bhaji or puchka?
Puchka.
Okay, so you prefer bikes because you were a pilot, being a pilot, so you prefer bike, car, or still you prefer sometimes you miss that, that energy, that josh, like kind of a flight and all that. Yeah.
So I prefer cars. I'm not fanatic about anything.
Okay.
To be very frank.
Okay.
I need to reach from point A to B.
Okay.
You put me in an auto, I'm okay.
Okay.
As long as it's comfortable, it's okay. I'm not fanatic. Brands, cars, these all don't excite me at all. Neither bikes. Bikes, though, I actually have very less knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely. So I won't get into it. But yes, I do like driving once in a while, whenever I get a chance. And yeah, that's it. But yeah, sometimes you do miss the energy behind flying.
Okay. So you have to rate it according to you. Newspaper, TV, radio, and social media.
Just say again.
Newspaper, radio, TV, and social media or internet.
I think newspaper.
And in terms of relevancy also.
In terms of relevance, I think newspaper.
Yeah.
Social media. TV and radio.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think even today I'm struggling, but I'm trying to tell my son that we were brought up in an environment where there was hardly TV at the initial stages, and we were mainly into newspapers. So our languages work better with newspapers, and I love reading newspapers. So if you come into my room, you'll see I at least read one full paper of Economic Times every day, and especially the editorials.
And if I'm allowed to ask, which was your first newspaper? It was.
I think the first newspaper that I read was the Statesman.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Bengal. You'd know.
Yeah.
Statesman is a great.
Yeah.
It was a hit one time.
Yeah.
And I think I remember. Yeah, there was a Bengali paper called Bortoman, and there was a
Anand Bazar
Pratika was there, but it was more like on a bit on the Times of India side.
Yeah.
So we used to get Statesman, and but off late I think I have started developing a liking for Hindu.
Okay.
Yeah, reading.
No Telegraph.
Not Telegraph. No. Hindu, and especially the editorial part of Hindu. Yeah.
Okay. And what would be the 5 good quality of your NGO partners?
Adaptability.
Okay.
Statutorily compliant. Capacity of human resource. Intent to work on the ground. And looking for long term.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess that's for today. Actually, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Akash.
And I really want you to give some closing comments to this camera. Your mentions. What do you really want to talk, and how was your experience of?
First of all, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sir.
I think it was a great conversation. Sometimes conversations are also reflections.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And I request everyone to join us for the next talk, where I'm sure we'll be having some other guests also who will be talking about their perspectives about this, and maybe I'll be with you asking some questions to them also at that time. And I just want people to know that CSR is here to stay. As a company, we are moving forward. As a sector, it's moving forward. I think the government is also playing its role, and I think there's no reason for pessimism right now. and it calls for social unity and for social cohesion so that private sector and social sector can get together and move ahead. And I'm sure DTalk and the series will be a force multiplier in that direction. And thank you and your entire team for all the support and for this cast.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time, sir.
Thank you.
And so viewers, please, if you like our video, please do subscribe to our channel. And the name of our podcast called DTalk with Soumitro Chakraborty. And keep mentioning your comments and keep share our video, like, and also keep doing good deeds. Do take a good care of yourself. Bye-bye for now.